Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're traveling way back. Further back than most human stories ever go, honestly. We're journeying to the absolute, true birthplace of civilization. We're talking about that fascinating strip of land between two rivers where the fundamental building blocks of our modern world were literally forged. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder why we divide our time into 60 seconds and 60 minutes? Why not a nice, clean base 10 number like 100? I mean, it's so deeply woven into the fabric of our daily lives that we barely even question it, right? Well, the answer is actually a remarkable 4,000-year-old mathematical legacy. It traces its origins directly back to the ancient Mesopotamians. They used a sexagesimal, or base 60, numbering system, and we still use it literally every single day of our lives. But to understand how these ancient people shaped our modern clocks, we first have to figure out how they shaped civilization itself. Section 1. The geographic catalyst. To really grasp Mesopotamia, we have to look closely at its geography. This was a land almost completely devoid of natural resources like stone or timber. Yet, paradoxically, this incredibly harsh reality is exactly what forced human civilization into existence. Mesopotamia literally translates to the land between the rivers, specifically the Tigris and Euphrates. But here's the catch. Unlike Egypt, where the Nile flooded in a gentle, super predictable annual cycle, the flooding of the Tigris and Euphrates was violent. It was unpredictable and honestly, sometimes totally catastrophic. Early humans couldn't just sit back and watch the waters rise. The sheer chaos of taming those rivers forced them to cooperate and organize on an absolutely unprecedented, massive scale. And this is a perfect illustration of how massive challenges spark innovation. Just think about what taming those rivers actually required. Thousands of people had to dig canals, build levees, distribute water, and keep strict records of the whole shebang. So the secret ingredient here was this desperate need for large-scale cooperation. Historians widely consider this to be the primary driver behind the emergence of the world's very first cities, centralized governments, and bureaucracies. Because let's face it, you simply can't manage a massive irrigation network without some serious organization. Section 2. The invention of civilization. That desperate need for organization led directly into the Uruk period. Cities absolutely exploded in population, with Uruk itself growing to an estimated 40 to 80,000 people. And it was right here that the most important invention in human history emerged. Around 3200 BCE, writing didn't start out as beautiful poetry. It started as step 1, simple clay pictographs used basically as economic receipts. By step 2, scribes were using a reed stylus to press wedge-shaped marks into wet clay, making things much more abstract. Finally, step 3 was a monumental leap. Writing transformed into a tool capable of recording complex human thought, speech, and history. For the very first time, human memory didn't have to die with a human. And speaking of recording human thought, get this, it's an absolutely extraordinary fact. The very first named author in all of human history, male or female, was a Mesopotamian woman named Enheduanna. She was a high priestess in the city of Ur who authored surviving hymns and poems. This tells us so much about the surprisingly complex social roles of the era. Women back then could own property, engage in business, and even hold immense religious authority. Section 3. The Age of Empires. Now, this region soon became the main stage for a rapid succession of historical heavyweights. We're going to compress thousands of years of dense history into just the most critical leaps forward. Mapping out this swift rise and fall, we start in 2334 BCE, when Sargon of Akkad united the city-states to form the world's first true empire. Later on, we see the rise of the Old Babylonian period, famously led by Hammurabi. Fast forward to 911 BCE, and the fearsome Neo-Assyrian military machine completely dominates the scene. Finally, in 626 BCE, the Neo-Babylonian Empire emerges, culminating in the absolutely magnificent city of Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar. Let's rewind a bit to the Old Babylonian period. Hammurabi established one of history's most famous legal frameworks, which is famously summarized as an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. This established a core philosophy of proportional retribution. But what's really fascinating here is the nuance behind this famous rule. It actually wasn't just a blanket law that applied equally to everyone. Actually, the application of Hammurabi's justice was strictly class-based. The punishment for harming a noble was entirely different from the penalty for harming a commoner. However, the code did establish some surprisingly progressive legal principles for the ancient world. We're talking minimum wage laws for laborers, professional liability for builders and doctors, and even consumer protections against tavern keepers who watered down their beer. It gives us a really fascinating peek into the daily concerns of ancient society. Skipping ahead to the Neo-Assyrians, the focus violently shifts to pure, calculated power. They built what historians consider the first genuinely professional standing army. They used advanced iron weapons, massive siege engines, and, perhaps most effectively, calculated psychological warfare. They actually commissioned these incredibly graphic stone carvings of their brutal conquests, specifically to act as propaganda. The goal? Terrifying potential enemies into surrendering without even putting up a fight. Following the fall of the Assyrians, Babylon rose up once again, this time under Nebuchadnezzar. His Neo-Babylon was magnificent, and quite likely the largest city on planet Earth at the time. It featured massive architectural wonders like the towering Edamanunki ziggurat, which likely inspired the biblical Tower of Babel, and the brilliantly glazed blue Ishtar Gate. This era really marked the cultural zenith of the region, right before its eventual fall to the Persian Empire, which effectively ended independent Mesopotamian rule. Section 4. Blueprint of the Modern World. Even though their political independence ended, their ideas absolutely did not. And you just can't talk about their legacy without talking about the Epic of Gilgamesh. This isn't just some ancient superhero adventure story, it is literally humanity's very first documented existential crisis. Gilgamesh is forced to confront the inevitability of his own death, and he embarks on this totally futile quest for literal immortality before finally accepting his human limits. It's a profound, deeply relatable search for meaning that still resonates with us thousands of years later. And you know what? Their science was just as profound as their literature. Beyond that base 60 math we talked about earlier, Babylonian mathematicians were out there solving quadratic equations and working with Pythagorean triples a full 1,000 years before the Greek mathematician Pythagoras was even born. Crazy, right? They kept such meticulous astronomical records that they could accurately predict lunar eclipses, and they even developed the system of 12 constellations that we know today as the zodiac. Section 5. Echoes of the Ancient World. So you might be wondering, how do we actually know all of this? Because finding a bunch of cuneiform tablets means absolutely nothing if you can't read them. Well, the heroic breakthrough happened in the 1850s, thanks largely to an Englishman named Henry Rawlinson and the Behistun inscription. This was a massive trilingual cliff carving in Iran, featuring Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian. By deciphering the simpler Old Persian script first, scholars were able to use this carving, basically like a Rosetta Stone, to finally crack the code of Babylonian cuneiform. It literally opened up an entire lost world to modern scholars. Retrieving this history, though, is an ongoing and incredibly fragile process. In recent times, invaluable archaeological heritage has suffered some permanent, truly tragic losses. During recent regional conflicts, ancient sites of immense historical value, including parts of the magnificent ancient city of Nimrud, were deliberately destroyed. It's a very sobering reminder of the deep fragility of our shared human history, and it really highlights why preserving and studying it is so incredibly vital. Which brings us to our final thought. The Mesopotamians left us the city, the wheel, writing, and the very concept of tracking time itself, all miraculously preserved in mud and stone. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. What enduring legacies will our civilization leave in the mud 5,000 years from now? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on the Cradle of Civilization. Keep questioning and keep learning.